It's Christine Wilson and Safira Galoob, and you'll thank us later. Tune in every week and hang out with us because we're a lot of fun.
And no topics off the record, we decided. We are open to talking about everything together with a bit of a sense of humor, a lot of self-forgiveness, a lot of grace, and always being wiser on the other end. Bring it on, girls and boys.
You know what? You'll thank me later that I'm telling you about this. You'll thank me. They're going to hate us, Safira. It's going to be nuts.
Good afternoon, Christine.
Hi. Happy Friday.
I don't know when this episode's coming out, but it's a Friday, so I'm going to say happy Friday.
It's a Friday for us right now. It's going to come out on Tuesday, right? When we're in the dog part of the week.
Right.
I used to, in high school, I hated Tuesdays. Tuesdays were always like, it wasn't Monday when you were excited to see your friends again, and it wasn't halfway through the week, and it was just Tuesday. Yeah.
Well, this is a short week, and most people do take off Memorial Day, so I hope folks, I guess we can say as if we're Tuesday, I hope folks had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.
That's right. I'm going to have a little barbecue, and I'm excited for you to come over.
If it's Tuesday, I should say, oh, Christine, I had the most wonderful time at your barbecue this weekend.
I can't believe I got you to play beer pong and funnel all that beer out of the kegs of beer. You were wild.
Oh, my God.
I had to get you to put your top back on. You were so nuts.
Insane. I think the last time you had a party that I was at your house, there was some beer ponging happening.
It does happen quite often, mainly at the block parties.
No, that was the block party, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I actually don't have my beer pong table anymore. Ronan borrowed it, quote unquote. It never came back. It made its way home.
I'm not surprised to hear either that he borrowed it, nor that it never came home.
Or that his mother is the one who had a beer pong table.
It just means you're the fun one on the block. I am not the fun one.
I am. I do like to party. I am fun. But I will say Ronan asked me to go to lunch with him today. So he's had lunch off from school because whatever, I don't know. He probably should be at school.
No, they're all off at school today, I think. I saw all the kids out and about today. So I think there must be like some sort of a parent teacher or something. I don't know, in Arlington.
They're all out and about. Well, he had to go back for something. So he had something right now. I don't know. But he asked me to go to lunch, and we went to lunch, and that was super nice. And it was nice just to have time to talk to him one-on-one. I said to him, I really wish you'd listen to that episode about moms of boys so you could understand the anxiety of being a mom and understanding boys and being around, especially the cool boy crowd and how it makes me nervous. And sometimes that's why I say stupid shit. But anyway, we had a nice time. I'm excited to hear when Luca gets back because I know he's touring colleges in Europe right now.
He is. He did it all by his lonesome. I put him on a plane at which we literally made the plane. They closed, so he forgot to check in because and do not do that.
Yeah.
And so you have to check in 45 minutes before. It was 47 minutes before, so there was a 2-minute deadline that we missed. But someone didn't close. It was still open, so the
squeezed it in.
And we had to cut in front of 20 people, and it was 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, it was a effing miracle that we got him on the plane. But he took the day flight to London, and then he ended up going to 6 schools by himself. Like,
nice.
Slept all the way to the most southern part of London the southern part of UK. Literally, the place is called Land's End. It's called. And then all the way to the most northern portion, right kind of below Edinburgh in Scotland, to a university called Durham, and all in between. So every day he has hit either 1 or 2 schools, and he is headed back as we speak to London to get on a plane tomorrow to come home. And I'm so proud of him. I
bet he had a blast. And so what did he just train between each town?
Yeah, he took the trains, and he had to go to these schools and didn't know anybody and had to introduce himself to, and in the UK system, you have to make a firm decision what you want to study and what program you would like to go to. There's no like,
I want to feel it out.
Yeah, no, there's none of that. And you don't actually know where you're going until the middle of July.
Yeah. I mean, which is fine when you live in Europe and you're just like, moving around your own country. But when you're making that whole international jaunt, that is.
And all the kids here all know where they're going to school. So he definitely has learned to do hard things this year. So I'm super proud of him.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear about all the fun shenanigans he got into while learning about his schools. I bet he made so many friends and charmed people left and right.
Well, when they come back, I told him that we want them to do a couple of episodes with Ronan and Luca with us. I think that'll be fun for us and fun for the listeners. I'll tell you what's been happening. We're getting ready to approach our 50th episode, which is so great.
I know.
Every time I do a call with anybody now in my world, they're like, "Oh, I liked your podcast on." And I always have to stop and go,
oh, what did I say?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting and talking to you, I am doing so like literally as if you and I are the only ones in the room. But now there's like thousands of people listening to us, Christine, and that's a little overwhelming to me.
It is weird. It is weird.
Just be clear, I could never be a famous person.
Well, maybe we will be, and then we'll figure it out. I have to tell you, I had like 3 different things happen this week. So, a guy that I did some work with 5 years ago, reached out and was like, I listened to your episode about sleep. And that I heard that you're using the Aura Ring. I highly recommend you add this app called Rise. And so thank you, Richard Roman, by the way, for this. And he said, add this app. It'll give you more insight into your sleep. And the other night, I got the best night's sleep I've ever gotten, like my highest score. And it was because this Rise app tells you when your melatonin window is to go to sleep. It tells you when to stop having blue light anywhere near you. So, of course, I don't every night do what it tells me to do. But the night that I listened to it to a T, I had like a 96 or a 93 out of 100 rating of sleep.
Amazing.
And I was like, this is amazing. So that was super fun to have a listener listen and give feedback. And then I had, I got all these texts that was like, oh my gosh, Saphira's thank you to you. That was so heartfelt. On the last episode made me tear up. And I loved hearing that. And just all these little things come out of the blue. I walk down the street and I have a neighbor who's like, oh my God, I loved what you said the other day about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh boy, I got to remember, I better be, I don't ever want to not be candid. Like that's super important. But you also have to make sure you don't say anything that someone's going to walk down the street and be like, fuck you.
Yeah. I'll tell you, just note that whatever we do say could be on the front page of the New York Times sometime.
That's right. So, hey, that's a problem I'd love. Hey, let's have our podcast be so popular. We're on the front page of the New York Times. Yeah. I'll take it. It'll be like dumbest podcaster on the planet besides Joe Rogan, Christine Wilson.
Not true. Not true. Not true. Well, I listen to some of these now that you guys have gotten into it. And I listen to folks like the topics that they have and the comments. I'm like, that doesn't sound very clever, very smart. We're smarter and more clever. But I know that there's all the algorithms.
Audiences for all sorts of things, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, part of this whole podcast came out of me going on a retreat to figure out my life and to figure out if I needed a reinvention. And instead of a full reinvention, I decided to channel my creative energies through this podcast. So this is a, pretty monumental midlife change for me in doing this. And having worked in influencer marketing for almost 15 years, I've always said, I don't want people to know my private business. I don't want to be famous. I don't want anyone to know all my secrets. That would be the worst. I feel so anxious for influencers because they get sucked into the money and the fame, and then they have all their stuff out there. So pretty funny that I decided twice a week to put all my stuff out there.
Well, and I think you just actually, our topic today is about reinventing ourselves. And I think what you just said is kind of, I think, the themes, which is, are you going to do an incremental and partial reinvention, or are you going to do a whole hog full reinvention? And I think we both have experience with both. And what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about, when should you reinvent yourself? What aspects need to be in place for you to be able to do that? And then kind of some major, okay, so you want to reinvent yourself. So what does that mean? What does that look like? How are you going to do that? And I think we have made a commitment not to should on people. So we're not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. This is all based on our experience.
Right.
So whatever you do, you can make your own mistakes, but no need to make Christine's and mine.
It's like when I watch these TikTok videos and someone's about to make a recipe and they have to preemptively say, if you don't like mayonnaise, don't put it in your salad. But I'm making it right now. And if you bother to watch it, I'm putting mayonnaise in my salad. But if you don't like it, don't take it. Don't do it. That's the same thing. We're telling you what we did. Some of it good, some of it bad, take it for what it's worth. If it's helpful, great. If you just want to laugh and be like, fucking suckers, I'm not doing it their way, good. That's helpful too. We'll take it either way.
Well, let's start with the kind of the incremental reinvention, because I think that is a more accessible, accessible, effort for most people. But it also is, there's less risk associated with it.
Probably more my model these days because I feel like I have more to risk, so I'm probably more, I think the podcast was a really great incremental change. And then it allowed me to open up a second business called The Pod Factory, where we help other people produce podcasts and do all that stuff. But that felt very undangerous from the full reinvention. And you are the master of the full reinvention.
Well, I don't know. Mine is just because of necessity and desperation, which is not the reason you really want to reinvent yourself. But, sometimes that's the trigger. So I have a question. When you were thinking about, I mean, in this scenario, it seems like it was a kind of organic development because you had a mindset, having been with Suzanne on the retreat. And by the way, for our listeners, if you were curious about the retreat, Suzanne was actually our first guest.
Yes.
I don't remember which retreat number it is, but which podcast it was.
Yeah.
I bet we could find it before.
Yeah, it was early on.
To talk about retreats and whether or not they're good. You're a good candidate for that. But so you had a mindset for at least a partial reinvention. Had you had, before I came over on that fateful day and said, let's do this, had you had any ideas about what reinvention looked like for you, how you were going to do it, what the next kind of effort was going to be? I'm curious what your frame of mind was.
I think I thought it had to be a total reinvention or nothing. So a lot of what I had been struggling with was, am I happy running my business anymore? Am I leaving money on the table? The operations side gets me down. Where do I get to be creative? I have all these creative people who work for me, so they get to do a lot of the creative stuff. I get to do the shit I don't really enjoy. I need something new. I need something different. I have ADHD. My brain needs to be stimulated. I need something. I never had stayed with a job for more than 2 or 3 years prior to doing this. And I was hitting that like 14 years of doing the same thing. And yes, there's different clients and different employees and all that, but still, it's a lot of the same themes day in and day
How
out.
many websites have you built, for example?
Well, I was looking, I think it's 79.
Wow.
Yeah, I was looking today in how many times it might actually be more than
9 of them have been for me, I think.
Yours are not painful though. Yours are quick, easy, usually brochure kind of sites. I can throw those suckers up and try to make them look good. That's kind of that's what I'm really good at. So yeah. But yeah, so yeah, and I didn't have it fully formed. Like I didn't lead that retreat saying, I'm going to start a podcast and I'm going to find a person who wants to do this with me. I had opened my idea to like, there's stay in the lane you're in, go in a totally different road, or do something kind of down the middle that scratches this itch but keeps the stability you're looking for. And I felt much more like that felt like the place. And then when you came over and said, I think we need to figure out what is this thing we're going to do together. And that podcast concept had just been hanging out in the back like lobe of my brain for years. And so it's like the first thing that shot out of my mouth. And you were the logical person to do it with because I have so many friends who'd be like, I'm not talking to people about my private life, or I don't want to talk a lot. Like that's not. So you being the instigator allowed that idea to fully form because you were someone who could do that with me.
Well, and I think the experience share there is that it may be part intentionality and in part organic, let it reveal itself to you. But but what you are saying, which resonates with me, is that you've got to have the right mindset, like this open mindset, wherein when ideas come, it's not like nope, my plate is full, my tasks are set, and so I think like if you are wondering whether or not you want to reinvent yourself, I think a good question is do I have the mindset to reinvent myself? And
am I willing to put in the work?
Oh, it is. So I think now I'm going to talk about like this whole, you see, especially online about people who change careers or people who like, have, like they talk about like, particularly like looking back on looking back, hindsight is 2020, as they say, is that it takes so much effort to start something from scratch.
Yeah.
Like, I have to tell you, one of my very favorite movies. Well, Kung Fu Panda is actually one of my very favorite movies. And one thing
Oh,
I like to do
you
an
know that.
analysis as to everything you need to know in life, you learn in Kung Fu Panda. And I'm literally gonna be like, and on this part, and on this part, and on this part. But I also like Finding Nemo. Okay. And one of the analogies that I like in Finding Nemo is there is the turtles that are in the current, and they're riding
Yeah.
the current. What I think is that most people want to find a current and let the current take them.
Mm-hmm.
And most people want to find their way into a current and let a current take them.
Yeah.
The hard thing to do is to, once you're in that current, especially if you're in the far left lane, you want to get out of is to get out of it and then be able to maintain your own momentum or find another current.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot more of unpredictability that I think that people really appreciate. And if you're trying to do what you were doing, and what I've always kind of had to do, with the exception of one time, which was you've got to maintain your existing status quo while you find the energy and the creativity and the patience and the persistence to build something new. And that balance is that is not for people who are who get distracted, who get it takes a whole lot of thought
Yeah,
to do it.
like resilience and
Brilliant.
focus
Yes.
and hours late at night.
Yeah.
I mean, when I built I would say my main reinvention in my life was starting M2M Consulting. And for those that don't know, M2M was named because I was at an age in my life where I was really interested in marketing to women, and I was a mom with young children, and I knew about the power of women and moms in the consumer space. So M2M stands for marketing to moms. So I specifically was looking for clients that wanted to market to moms. So you can think of the Protects car seats and the Gerbers and all that, down to little tiny school camps and things like that.
And you were before influencer marketing. You really came into it on the precipice pre-influencer marketing. In fact, am I remembering that one of your first kind of offerings was to identify influencers and place product with influencers? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, they were called mommy bloggers at the time. The word influencers wasn't even coined really yet. It didn't, it's like, because you can go back and do historical search on Google of like when terms start to be used. This was really kind of just before that term influencer. There wasn't really, the social media was a supportive piece to blogs. And these mom blogs got tons of traffic, right? So moms would go on, they would either talk everything about their lives, or they would have a niche space, whatever it might be. One of my first clients wanted to get like thousands of people to an event, a physical event. And I was like, I'm just going to call every mom blogger I know in the space and see if they'll post about it. And that was my first, like, blow it out of the water. We had people lined up around the block, and so
Local? It was local?
yeah, I was in Vienna, Virginia. Yeah. And it was insane. And I was like, wow, this works. Okay. And that was when I realized it was my space. And the technology platforms that are around they were the very first one had just come out. And I was the first person to sign up to use their product. So then they brought me out on the road with them because I was their first testimonial.
What was it?
It was called Tap Influence. It has since been bought and moved on. But one of the founders, there were two founders. One of them was this amazing woman who just really sort of mentored me. I considered myself a consultant, a one-person consultant. She's like, nope, you're growing into an agency. You need to start acting like an agency and talking like an agency. And you need to go on the speaking circuit with me. And you need to put yourself out there. So big shout out to Holly Hammond. I think she really helped me figure out this reinvention much bigger than I saw my reinvention, which was that I was just going to be sort of a one-person marketing consultant helping a few brands.
Yeah. So I think that's actually a second piece. And I've heard about this. Actually heard about this, we'll call it tactic or part of the strategy for artists, young artists who are looking to develop their voice or their artistry, is to try to find somebody to emulate who espouses and represents attributes of where you're headed.
Yeah.
On the where you're headed piece. I can imagine in an artist standpoint, you're like, I want to move like that. I want to sing like that. I want to whatever. But I imagine it's a little bit harder on the professional side. Like, for example, in my space, there's an individual who I met who had a business model. And I was like, that's the business model I want. I want to emulate that. very specific situation, but it's been harder for me to do that in a more nuanced way because when I moved from the dance space into the lobbying space, I really just wanted to get away from dance. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go to, so it's just I was like
away from this,
and I didn't really know what that was, and then that started to happen. But as that started to present itself, then I saw somebody in that space, and I was like, oh, I want to emulate that person. I will say that's a blessing and a curse because things are not always as they seem.
Right. It looks bigger and shinier and better from the outside. If someone's good at marketing, yeah, it can look fantastic, and then you do it and you're like, oh, there's a lot of pitfalls to this model.
Right. Or the reason that they were able to replicate that model was because they possess certain idiosyncrasies and have a journey of experience that you may or may not be able to replicate. So,
right.
But I do think it's good to have that kind of that North Star. And then I guess so. Now we'll say that you have incrementally reinvented yourself. You've got the podcast. How do you know when you're there? Like, how do you know when you've actually landed in the?
I don't think I think it's always a journey, right? For me, it's like the world. I mean, my life is pretty status quo until it changes, and I found that there's pretty significant markers in my life over the last 20 years that have generally been around children, marriage and children, but really children, phases of children. So your need to take care of them, childcare costs, the money, the needs of them, all of that, those, I am the parent, the person in my marriage that can be a little more reactionary to those needs. I have more flexibility. So I do think a lot of my reinvention is around these other obligations and things I want to do versus just what do I want to do professionally. I think that a couple years from now, I will have a lot more freedom. I mean, obviously, there's still the cost of college and the monetary constraints, but I will have a lot more freedom to say, hey, I'm going to get on the road again. I'm going to be traveling a lot. I mean, I traveled 4 to 5 days a week for my 20s. I was done with that. And I had Ronan at 30. I was still traveling at that point. And I was done. So when people are like, don't you wish you traveled more? I'm like, hell no. But maybe in a couple of years, I'll be like, yeah, I'm ready to go.
Or because, I mean, I know Oj is, he is in a remote situation. So you guys could work from other places.
You're
not limited to work from here.
Or I could say, hey, I want to go. I was saying to him the other day, I'm like, he didn't sound excited about this opportunity at all. But I was like, I have another friend who's like a big HR executive. I was like, if we got her and my husband who's an attorney and me, we could just go into like startups, that are raising money or looking to sell, get them all spiffed up, set up the process, sales and marketing process, set up all the legal.
It's like a staging. It's like a staging company. Like if you want to sell, we're going to pretty you up.
Yep. Get you ready to go, and then we get out. And then we just do it again and again and again. I was like, that could be a really cool opportunity. I know how to set up process. I know how to set up organization for sales and marketing. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows? For me, it's like the opportunities are open. But it's also kind of like I don't do sales and marketing for M to M. It's all referral based. So it's very it's constant relationship building. Yeah. I'm guessing my next reinvention is going to come because of some relationship I've built that I have no idea that this is coming. It's going to come, the opportunity is going to be right, and I'll take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think one of the things that I've always found to be really impressed with about you is that your ability to adapt to, one, a changing environment, technologically, emotionally. Also, even though you have very close relationships with your employees, you understand that they are tools of your business. And I really struggle with that because, sometimes you have to recalibrate how you use a tool.
Right.
Sometimes you can't afford that tool, or sometimes you don't have the work for that tool. And I really struggle with that from a leadership perspective.
That is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Well, especially when you're not like a big company who can just keep someone on the bench for a little while or phase things in, phase things out. Yeah, it is. That is probably one of the most stressful parts.
And as we're talking about reinvention, I mean, this won't apply to a lot of people out there, but I'm having to completely reinvent my business because the model that I had developed was dramatically undermined with this most recent merger of one of my biggest clients. And I'm in the middle of it. And so I can say that, I have kind of the way I've described it is I'm looking at what my core competencies are and what my core subject matter expertise are. And I'm looking at where there's momentum in the marketplace. And I literally made like a spreadsheet of what am I good at? What do I already know how to do? How can I replicate and scale that? And where is their growth? And how can I take this skill set into that new marketplace? And some of the announcements that I'll be making in the coming months will be a reflection of that. And thank God I have you because you can help me get this stuff off the ground in a way that's less efforts. But, I will say one thing that is really important on the reinvention is that if your reinvention involves a professional reinvention and there's a monetization of your reinvention, you better be ready to be patient because the money doesn't come in for a long, long, long time.
Okay, so that actually takes me to a great question. And I was around for all of this, but I don't know that I know the actual story. Okay, so you got your belly dancing school, you've decided in your head you need out. Where the heck did cannabis even come from?
Yeah.
Where did that even come from in your head? You are also not really a cannabis user at the time.
Oh, I didn't know the difference between indica and sativa, friends. I'd never consumed, never, never, never. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, like,
yeah,
you couldn't have possibly made the same spreadsheet you're making now because
no.
I will just
tell you something. So first of all, I was desperate to do something else besides teach belly dance because everybody loved the studio except for me.
Yeah.
And COVID was a perfect opportunity to transition.
I'm out.
I mean, I had to freaking borrow an additional $50,000 that I'm still paying today, $367 a month to get out of that studio. I'm so happy to be out of that studio. I loved it. I loved it for a long time, but I definitely grew generosity resentment. Sorry, Saffronitas, you all got what you needed, but I did not get what I needed.
Yep.
So, so a couple things happened. One of my closest friends, Lorinda, she is godmother to my child, had a friend who was actually my original first partner, who was in the dietary supplement space and worked on CBD. So she had some subject matter expertise around cannabinoids, and she had, just because she had through the dietary supplement and she knew what was going on with CBD.
How did you end up talking to her about this?
I mentioned that I was kind of interested in. So I think that the impetus was that in 2017, there was in early days when states were passing cannabis legislation. There was a huge onslaught of new states that came online. 7 states came online.
Okay.
And so, in fact, it was like the federal election went one way, but states, I mean, it
went all in. They were really jumping in. Yeah.
Oklahoma was one of those states. And so 7 states now passed cannabis initiatives. And I was like, okay, it was almost like it was a signal.
That's significant.
It's happening. And so I had done some lobbying on the Hill before. So I kind of learned about what I was doing. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I better figure out what's going on the Hill. Didn't have a client. And I didn't really know that I was going to reinvent myself for this, but I explore it as a curiosity towards reinvention.
Oh.
But I acted like I was already successful. So I literally walked into my first conference in Philadelphia on a fateful morning, took the train at 6 a.m., landed in Philly. I don't know if I've told the story before. And on the way to the conference, I sent a business card to Kinko's, called Group, changed my clothes from the train station to the conference at the FedEx Kinko's. And I just said Kinko's, then you really know how old you are.
Yeah.
Changed my clothes, put on my makeup, took the business cards, and walked into the conference and said, hello, my name is Safira Galoob. I am a lobbyist in the cannabis space. And I didn't know anything about what I was going to do. So I really put on a kind of a pretend identity.
Yeah.
And then I lived in that identity. And so I acted like I had clients in the space. And so then I went to all of the offices. There were like 115 new Republican offices that now had states that had programs. And I just visited 85 of them and asked questions. And so my reinvention was really it wasn't like a like, I didn't have a visual of what it was going to look like. I didn't have a model or a mentor to emulate. I mean, I did have some mentors who were supporting me, but I had no idea what it was going to look like. It was really more just waking up every day and saying, what is, and this is my mantra. What is the next best thing? What do I have to do today? How can I advance this one more step forward? And that was, I mean, that took, I worked a year and a half without a client, Christine.
That's real perseverance.
Yeah. And I took $50,000 out of my savings account to launch the business. And so I say that because, you know, people talk about this reinvention, and it is, you're not making any money. You're probably borrowing money for yourself. If you think it's going to take a year, it'll probably take you. I mean, it's just so uncommon that people can flip that switch.
Right. And be all on right away.
It is a process.
It is.
Process. Yeah.
And I think one of the things that people don't remember is that marketing and sales is actually going to be 90% of what you're doing. And if you're not good at that, it's going to be challenging. Yeah. Especially in a service-based business. I mean, a service-based business is not really all about the service. It's all about selling yourself and convincing people to trust you.
Yeah.
So I do love the name, the Liaison Group. How did you come up with that?
You know, I have to give credit to my partner, Tammy Wall. She was my first partner, and she came out with it, and I loved it. Yeah. It was really, it was good.
How often do people spell liaison wrong?
All the time. Liaison. And even someone was telling me, as I was thinking about, you know, if I wanted to keep that name, or they said, choose a name that's a little easier
to spell. Yeah. Well, it's a nice French word, right? Liaison must be French.
Yeah.
So it fits you.
Yeah. Now, you know, as I'm thinking about reinventing my business and whether I want to reinvent myself, like, I have a very clear recollection of how hard it is to do that. And I'm not trying to say this to you or to listeners to discourage them, but I think people throw around that reinvention word, and I particularly see folks do it who are financially have nothing, they don't need it financially or have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And so they can live off of savings or live off of other income. And so they can step into this new identity with no consequences. Well, that is not a luxury that I had. And that is not a luxury that most people have.
I don't.
Exactly. Most people have to do incremental identity shifts or reinventing yourself incrementally. Yeah. I mean, mine was pretty big. Mine was a pretty big, like, this to that. But yeah.
I will say, I did not have to go to an office and work a different job 9 to 5. So I'm not going to act like I had no privilege. I did have privilege in the fact that I was home with my children when I decided to do this. And I had basically been afforded a 2-year, you could be a stay-at-home mom and then go figure something out. So
you had a runway.
I did have a runway, and but I did need to make an income. I mean, that was the thing. It had to become part of our planning to pay for these children.
Yeah.
So it was
when I left the law. I'm sorry. When I left the law to open my studio, we signed the lease on July the 7th of 2017. I had to be open September 1st because my primary competition was going to be doing enrollments for an entire semester. And that is where I was expecting to get some initial income from folks who knew me, having in other places in DC. So if I would have missed that window, I would have had to basically cover that rent for those 3 months. And here's just, Giovanni was diagnosed with kidney cancer on August the 10th. We had to build out the space. We had to build out the space completely from scratch. And I was thinking, that is when you met me. You met me when
you were building out the space. That was 2007, not 17.
2007. That's right, because my son was born in 2006 and 2007. Thank you for the correction.
Because I was like, this had to have been sooner.
Oh, yeah, because Luke was in 2006. We took the space at 2007 in July. I had to open September of 2007. God, I can't even say it. It's such a long. And we had to build the space out. So people who know commercial space, we took the lease on, and it had to open in 60 days. And we had to build it out. And he got kidney cancer and had to have his kidney removed on August the 10th. And as he was being wheeled to surgery, he gives me a Home Depot list and says, you better go to Home Depot. We've got things to do. I was like, okay, I hope you come out of surgery.
So when you were, I mean, that's insane, first of all. Thank God Gio is
okay.
He's as resilient as he is.
He has one kidney and he's cancer-free. Thank God.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Okay, so while you're at the law firm and you say, "I don't wanna be a lawyer anymore,"
Yeah.
how did you come to that reinvention?
Yeah. I mean, I was at an organization, I was at the Landmine Survivors Network, and it was like an organization that did taught resilience, or trained resilience around the world. Um, you know, I think what I learned was I didn't want to work in an organization where there was cultural idiosyncrasies. Like I didn't respect the people who were above me on the org chart.
Yeah.
I didn't respect my peers. Like I struggle a lot to be in an environment where I either don't like people. I know they don't like me. I'm
Uh-huh.
terrible if somebody doesn't like. I'm like, I don't really care in the outside world, but if I have to show up every day and I know I'm not well liked or whatever it is, like
It's
that
such an
really
uncomfortable
you
feeling.
just did that. You just went with you. Like that is the way I feel. I mean, and it's not because I care. I want to be happy every day. I want to wake up, trust the people I'm working with, be trusted. If that environment, so I knew I could not stay in that environment.
Yeah.
And we were selling our house at the time as well. We were already selling our house. And so I used the trigger of the sale of the house to basically put, $100,000 into this commercial space and build this belly dance business. And I had an experience belly dancing. I did not have experience running a business.
Yeah.
And my husband offered to renovate it for me. So, it absolutely was. I mean, it was a leap off a cliff because I was leaving a pretty good career and a really good paycheck for a lot of uncertainty. And I will tell you, for 13 years, I did not have those financial resources that I did when
Yeah.
when I practiced law. I changed my identity. I reinvented myself, but what is it? Forwent. I had, yeah, yeah.
We're gone. We're got. I forgot.
Because
I just forgot.
I forgot that there was real consequences to my earning,
Yeah.
keep my earning going, my savings,
Yeah.
and the fact that I had these sunk costs that I was never going to get back. And I'm making up for those now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so there's other ways I feel like people can reinvent themselves that may not be their career.
Yes.
And
Absolutely. I'm so glad you're mentioning this.
I mean, I think part of it is I feel like I've been through a little bit of a reinvention physically, which has give me a reinvention mentally because I feel better, I feel more confident, I'm more comfortable in my skin. I'm still deep down, I'm me, but I'm maybe just an improved me. I think about other ways that I can, I think a big part of reinventing yourself is identifying the things you want to work on and coming up with a plan to do the work. And I think so much of this podcast has really helped me identify the things that I want to reinvent in myself. One, I've been listening to some episodes, just kind of going back. I think one, I might be a little bit overly critical of myself. And two, I do have things that I want to change. So I think we've talked a lot about some of the things that I want to change. I think I need to start sitting down and thinking about what the plan is. What are the things? How do I really want to reinvent myself in these different areas? And that's
surrounding yourself with people also who are supportive of that. I mean, I can honestly say whether it is a physical change or an emotional change, like if your peer group, particularly if your family is not supportive, like having to subsidize that because it is very, very hard to wake up and do it alone.
Yeah.
It is, even if you want to have like celebrate small wins or you want to get support on setbacks or and I'm really, we haven't talked about this, but this would be a really, really great podcast is developing your own personal board of directors.
Yeah.
Because you can get people around you who have, navigated through a journey. And there is like, people, I mean, the human condition is desperate to feel needed.
Yeah.
Why so many of us parent, but you can also do that with friends who want, or people who want mentorship. I mean, there's a lot of great thinking and a lot of like habits of some of the most successful people that this building a personal board is really, really crucial for to indicate the success of your trajectory. So I didn't really, yeah.
This kind of reinvention as you age reminded me of this SNL sketch. I think it was from this last week. And it was like, oh no, actually, I'm totally lying. It's from this family on TikTok, and they're on all the socials. They're called the Holderness family, pretty famous in the parenting space. The husband actually went to UVA around the same time I did. And they did a sketch. It was like, oh, you've turned 50. Okay, well, let's spin the wheel of what your new hobby is going to be. Oh, you got birds. You're going to get a camera to watch your birds, and you're going to put out a bird feeder. And she's like, I don't want to watch birds. And I was laughing and I was like, I don't want to do all these old people hobbies either. I'm not reinventing myself. And guess what I just signed up for this week? A class on how to learn how to play mahjong.
I can tell you though, I want to learn to play mahjong too.
Well, I will tell you all about this. You can come take this class with me. But I was cracking up. I'm like, I watched that whole sketch and I was like, I'm not going to do that. And now I'm going to learn mahjong. I clearly am approaching 50. Here it comes.
Yeah. But I'm pretty amazed because I've got, I'm 55 this year, right?
Yeah.
And I feel better this year than I did in my 40s.
I feel better this year than I have in 20 years.
Yeah. So I think that folks that think that their best days are behind them, I'm not so convinced that I'm on the downhill.
Yeah, no. And I mean, think about how different we look at 50, 47, 54 compared to what past generations did.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing things differently.
Mm-hmm.
I did say last night, my friend Jen and I were talking about it, and I did say, well, we didn't go immediately cut our hair off, let it go gray, and put it in little permed curls. I think that's like a life-changing difference right there.
Yes. We all know that if something happens to me prematurely, please make sure my roots done, my lashes are done, my nails are done, and my hands are cleaned before you lay me in that coffin. I don't care what anybody says. And now my brows are getting thin, so let's go ahead and work on those too, please.
Oh, yes. And by the way, I just heard great news. Because of the crazy cost in nails, short nails, not crazy short, but like what our nails look like right now, is now all the rage.
Thank goodness, because
this is doable.
Yeah,
I can type, I can live, they don't break.
Yeah, and it's all in style. And red nails are okay. We're good.
I think we're fine in our bright nails. But yeah, anyway, I saw that. That was one of the many things I saw on TikTok this week. I really do feel sad for all the people missing out on TikTok. I will say it is a brain rot. It is wasted time. It is terrible for my ADHD. There are 100 negatives, but I feel like I learned something new and interesting every day.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, though, so first of all, I did read an article that a brain rot is actually, it doesn't cause like real brain rot. That's just a, the term.
That's a phrase, yes.
But I think, when you think about what we need to be able to kind of zone out, probably allows you to relax in a way. I mean, I can tell you, so I like house porn.
Oh, you want to look at the befores and afters?
Well, no, I like to see what houses are on sale around.
Oh, yes, I do love to do that. I have a safe search in every town I've ever visited, I think.
So like I'll watch a movie and I want to also scroll through houses that are for sale. And my husband's like, why can't you watch the movie? And I'm like, I don't know. But if I'm doing my house porn while I'm watching the movie, I finish and I'm just a lot more relaxed. So that means, but I don't think it should be so, not be so critical of yourself, because it's what your body needs and what your brain needs. And
I do have a limit on it. It does shut down after 30 minutes. I can't do anymore. I mean, unless I go and bypass my own shutdown.
Right. I love that. Like, you're on guardrails.
My own guardrails. Well, I do think my next reinvention, and my retreat gave me visions of this reinvention. I do think my next reinvention will be around exploration of the world, figuring out, also living in sort of an environment that prioritizes community, health, food, enjoyment over work. I think that's one of the worst things the United States has going for it, is that work is the center of everything else. Everything comes as an ancillary if you get to it. Whereas you go to so many European cultures where work is what you do to make it so that you have all these other things that are the priority.
Absolutely.
So I do look forward to that reinvention and what that can mean. And can I make it? Can I do it? I think I can. I think I can buy into it and succeed at it. So
I think you're going to be a rock star on it. Well, I will let folks know how my professional reinvention goes, because I'm definitely in the middle of it right now. But we wish those who are considering reinvention a good dose of courage and resilience. And those that are in the middle of reinvention, some patience, and also resilience. And those on the other side, a big tip of the hat for making it through the other side, because it is not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Yeah, and also one shout out to the person who is the partner to the one reinventing themselves. We know a lot falls on you. It's not an easy time. But being there and being supportive to the person reinventing is a wonderful gift you can give them.
Absolutely. And I would say, as Giovanni shows up for me as I go through these different phases, my love and appreciation for him deepens because his understanding of these new facets or different facets. And it's been really important for, a multi-decade marriage. We're 31 years this year. And so to have him stand in witness and support of these changes, I couldn't have done it without him.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you have that. All right. Well, we hope you'll thank us later and get working on that reinvention.
Absolutely.